Hi, this is Alex from livebloopers.com, and there are no napping babies in my house presently. How often does that happen? That's a rhetorical question. Today I have some tips on how you can configure a Boss rc-505 loop station. rc-505 is a really nice electronic device, but it has a whole lot of settings that need to be set up beforehand in some cases, or that are somewhat difficult to figure out. So thankfully you can figure them all out and set them properly beforehand and save them. So that's what I hope to show you how to do. Alright, now here we go. Step 1. Figure out all of the settings that you want to remain constant. All the settings that you're liable to want to have the exact same way every single time, or nearly every single time. Here are a few examples of what I'm talking about. One thing that I always like to have is inside of Rhythm Edit, you click over a few times and it says Rhythm Line Out, and it defaults to on. And I would like to always have it off. I like the rhythm to be on in my headphones only, because that makes it, having the rhythm on makes it quantize and the loops line up nice and easy. But I only want to hear it in my headphones. I don't want to put the rhythm from inside the machine out to the audience. And the second thing is that I went through and figured out everything that you have to change in order to get my foot switch working. I found that it took me quite a while to figure out how to set my foot switch up, and I definitely don't want to have to figure it out all the time, and I definitely don't ever want to have to figure it out at a live show. So I just figure it out once and I'm all set. Third thing that I do for mine, and I would recommend doing since we're setting up a master preset, you might as well go through and set your input effects and your track effects to the 3 that you're going to use most often. For track effects, I'll most often use granular delay, and instead of beat repeat, I'll use vinyl flick. For input effects, I like to make sure I have guitar to bass, and also I like the slicer, but I don't like the default settings for a slicer. So if there are any that you don't like the default settings, you can go through and set them exactly how you like them, and they'll be set the way that you're most likely to use them most often. And when you've figured out everything that you want for your master preset, the things that you want all the time or almost all the time, then go ahead and save it in a blank phrase, which you do just by hitting the button that says write once and then twice. Step 2 is figure out which settings are going to change, but that you will use often enough for it to be worth your time to make a preset for it. For example, if you want a preset where tracks 1 and 2 are really super quick, only one measure, and then say track 3 is a long 32 measure and track 5 is a one shot, you can set all that up ahead of time so that you have it all set and ready to go. You don't have to touch a lot of buttons to get there. For me, the only thing that I found it worth my time to set presets for is tempo. So the way I have my loop station set up is that phrase number 5 is called 120, and it is at 120 BPM. And phrase 4 is called 110 and 100 and 90 and so on. And going the other way, it's 150, 160, 170, etc. And the way that I was able to achieve that was when I had a blank phrase that had all of my settings saved the way that I wanted them. I changed the one setting that I wanted to change, say BPM, we want to take it to 110. Change it to 110, and we would name this 110. I'm not going to go through that right now. And then we would click write, and then instead of writing it over top of where we are, we just move it over one and write it to the next one. And then change it by 10 more BPMs and write it to the next one, and so on. Step 3. Step 3 is you use those great presets that you just created to make some awesome music, and have fun and enjoy them. And when you go to save them, you make sure you save them somewhere else. Don't save them over top of the preset that you made, because that would sort of defeat the purpose. So now I have all these great presets made, and I want to make some music. For example, I'm gonna want to make a song. It's gonna be 140 BPM. I move up to the phrase that has my 140 BPM preset, and I start making some awesome music. So now I've recorded some really awesome music. It's great, and I want to save it. I press the button that says write, but I don't write it over top of the preset that I made, because then I wouldn't have it anymore. Instead, I just dial all the way up until I get to my first blank, and then I press write and save it up there. And now life is just so much easier. If you found this video to be particularly useful, or even mildly useful, or really even if you found it completely useless, we would still like you to subscribe to us on the YouTube channel here. So please do. Bye.